Hey there, I'm John St. John, the voice of Duke Nukem, Hail to the King, baby. And this is the Movie Raid Show. Oh, yeah.
It's time for the movie raid. Tonight's victim is voice actor John St. John, known as the one and only Duke Nukem. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Fantastic, man. Do we have any new events coming around? Any new projects that you're allowed to speak on? Or are you just kicking back and just enjoying what the upcoming holidays?
Oh, I am definitely getting ready for the holidays. I got one more live appearance I have to do this year. I'm doing a convention in the Panhandle of Florida called Really Rad Weekend, coming up on like November 8th and 9th that weekend. And it's a great way for me to wrap the year up, you know, because big convention appearances can be, you know, exciting and loud and exhausting, to be perfectly honest. But this Really Rad Weekend thing I'm going to in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, is very chill. It's like a big group of friends at a pool party with a built-in bar all weekend long. So while it is a convention, it is really rad, as its name implies.
You know, having performed the same character or even a same type of characters in your previous works, do you feel that it's harder to develop on other characters due to performing on one specific character for long periods of time?
You know, the recording process makes that pretty easy. You know, we rarely have to shift from a character to another character. During recording sessions, we'll spend, you know, an hour on one character, then an hour on another character, so you don't have to go back.
Yeah, do you, like, as far as developing any other characters, now clearly you've played as Duke Nukem for long periods of time, and we pretty much get that concept, but having to work on other characters outside of that realm, like, what was that process for you on those?
Well, you know, it's a good director can bring the voice out of me. And sometimes they just come together easily. Funny one, Lonnie Manella, the casting director, she called me up. This was background 1996, 97. Called me one day and said, hey, I need you to come down to a studio in downtown San Diego on Saturday so we can record a video game. I said, oh, cool. You're going to put me in it? She said, yeah. I said, what game is it? She said, something called Sonic the Hedgehog. And I was excited because I knew what Sonic was all about. And I said, okay, you're going to send me the sides, you know, the audition lines? She said, nah, not at this time. I said, well, what character am I going to play? She said, well, we'll worry about that when you get here, right? So I get to the studio, and she shows me a picture of Big the Cat. And I went, wow, he looks big and dumb. And she said, yeah, that's why I cast you, John. When I got into the studio and actually were setting levels, I did just a dumb voice, a really stupid, oh my doggy, I kind of talk like this about my pollywog pal, right, as Big the Cat. And I was just messing around while they set the levels, but the director, Japanese director from Sega out of Tokyo, was on the phone line and heard me doing that and decided at that point that's the voice they wanted. Sometimes we develop the voice, sometimes we get tricked into doing something because I was dumb enough to do a really dumb voice for level check, and they heard it and they liked it. I got stuck with that one. Developing character voices for other characters, there's always a certain set of steps we take. You know, what is the ethnicity of the character? What's the age of the character? What's the size of the character? What dialect? Where are they from? You know, there's so many variables. Some come easy, some are more difficult. I mean, I played the part of an animatronic buzzard for a ride at Dollywood that's been in use for 25 years, and that was a challenging role to fill, because what they said for the audition was they wanted somebody who could sing on key, which I can do because I'm a professional singer too. Yeah, have an authentic Tennessee accent, and I don't have an authentic Tennessee accent. I did grow up in North Carolina, right next door, and we all kind of sounded the same. You know, if you're from there, you kind of sounded like this, from North Carolina and from Tennessee. And then thirdly, they wanted you to be able to sound creepy. So the Tennessee accent, be able to sing and sound creepy, it sounded like a very difficult role. But I auditioned for it and got it. And sometimes we luck out and you can develop the voice on the spot for something that sounds difficult and pull it off. At least that's been my experience. And sometimes it's just a voice that's so close to my regular voice, it's real easy to dial in with very little direction from the casting director.
Early 90s to mid 90s, was that a different era for you in comparison of today's voice acting as far as developing characters? Or did it become that easy to the point where you can do it on the spot regardless of how long you take, and then there it is, and eventually, lo and behold, you're in a game or you're in a TV show or whatever it may be?
No, I'd say the process of developing the character is pretty much the same. That has not changed. The industry in general has changed significantly. I mean, when I think back to the original Duke Nukem 3D game I did, I think I made all of $800 for that, and they ported a lot of that audio over to other Duke Nukem games, so I really didn't make jack. But later on, when video game voice acting became unionized, then it started paying well, and the work became serious. But still, the process of dialing in the voice for the character remains the same. It's usually a conversation between me and the director to figure out what the core of that character is, to dial in a sound that is believable for them.
And voicing a character like Duke Nukem being a very prominent character in your career, was this particular character a way to find points of personality interest to help make it alive? And do you look for a specific type of trait to help create it in other characters that you perform as well?
I love playing evil characters. Being the hero like Duke Nukem is fun, but playing the villain is a lot of fun too. And a lot of that comes from channeling anger from within. I have 3 ex-wives, so for me it's pretty easy to channel the anger when I'm doing a role such as Jadis Heskell from Bombshell and the Ion Fury game. Which, by the way, a little trivia for you real quick. That Bombshell game that he first appears in was originally called Duke Nukem Mass Destruction. And I had recorded that game in its entirety, but then that lawsuit, between Gearbox and 3D Realms happened, and so 3D Realms lost that battle. The only rights they got were to the original Duke 3D, and so they had to change Duke Nukem Mass Destruction to the game Bombshell. But they kept me in the game anyway, not as Duke, but as the bad guy, Jadis Heskell, which was very nice. 3D Realms, there's some love there. But yeah, it's that's basically the way that went. What's your next question, sir?
Do you ever have shared emotions from other characters that you perform in between? Like, as in, do you take certain anger points from one character that you already have an existing character and actually put it into a new character, kind of like reformulate a different formula for that particular character?
No, I don't think that's anything that's happened. However, fans have asked me many times to do Duke Nukem lines with Big the Cat's voice and vice versa. But no, all of the characters definitely have their own unique personalities and motivations. So I can't say that any of my characters really share a lot together. Maybe there is a comparison to be had between Duke Nukem and Axe from Dota 2. Axe speaks of himself in third person. He's a badass character. Not like Duke, because he talks more like a monster than a human. But I'd say there's some comparisons there to be had.
Now, having performed so many different characters, when a company wants to, let's say they want to reuse it long term, or even just that one character for being something else, do you feel like sometimes it could be not just a challenge, but also a chore if you are performing that one character for a long, extensive time on other games that's been long withstanding?
Oh no, it just makes the job easier and easier. Yeah, if I could just do the Duke Nukem voice all the time, that would be the easiest thing for me ever. I'm so a part of the character, and I've been doing the voice for 30 years now. That while the Duke Nukem personality is certainly not who I am, it is a voice that. Oh, you know what? Here's a good example. I was at a convention in Syracuse, New York, like a week ago, right? This retro game con, and I went out to the after party, and I'm screaming, pounding my fists, listening to Power Glove, having a good time, drinking and all that stuff. And I lost my voice the next day. At the convention, I sounded like this, right? But even through my voice being completely shot, I could still do this. Somehow the Duke Nukem voice is in a different part of my voice box than I normally speak with. And it's kind of funny that voice is just so easy. It's effortless for me to be in the Duke Nukem voice. I guess maybe just because I've been doing it for so many years, but it's also, I have to drop my voice down like an octave to get it, into Duke, down here. And that part of my voice kept working after I practically had laryngitis. I find that amazing, actually.
Now, I know there was always talks about, or rumors about, the Duke Nukem movie, which obviously never surfaced or never was ever set in stone, but having to use your voice, let's say today's filmmaking, how would you feel having to use that character? And do you feel that, to some degree, that you should have some say or negotiation for making this, or in part making this character what it is today?
I like to take some credit for, my voice is so recognizable amongst gamers having been Duke Nukem, but of course I have not the money behind any project being made, so I have no voice as far as decision making or whether I'm going to be a part of it or not. I am certainly not going to turn down anything that's offered to me because I have been the Duke Nukem voice exclusively since 1996, and I want to remain that until I die. I should be doing, Duke Nukem voice work, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. I want to be Duke forever. Duke Nukem forever? Okay, sorry.
Well, even though that your voice was limited to these games that are at least considered now ancient relics because we have all this streaming and all this other next-gen consoles and whatnot, but how do you feel that if these companies are remaking these games or just using parts of existing games in the past and characters, do you feel that to a degree that if they keep reusing like this, it can actually potentially hurt the character, let alone not your reputation per se, but can actually just hurt your credibility for that character by just kind of recycling it?
Oh, no, not really. But, here's the deal is most of these projects, video game projects for the voice actors, is a buyout, which means everything that I've recorded and sent to them becomes their property once they pay me. And they can reuse that same recording over and over pretty much how they want because they own it. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. There's no residual pay or anything like that for video games yet. Though we're still working in that direction with SAG-AFTRA to try to make the union, make it more a living wage kind of thing for voice actors. You're only as good as your last project, and how many video games can any actor do in a year? There's only so many video games out there. And too many voice actors today, if you ask me. But once they have the recordings and they paid you, those recordings belong to them, so they can use them all they want.
But let's say if negotiations were available as an option to that voice actor, now obviously as in comparison to an actor on certain projects, would you say that it would cost way too much money for a voice actor to have any kind of say like that, and like you said, the buyout is much cheaper or whatever, so they can use what they want with it? But do you feel that could actually hurt, boost, or can it be lessened to the voice actor if that option was available to him right now?
I can negotiate what I'm going to be paid to do a character again. I can't negotiate the usage once they've paid me. So, whatever they want to do, once they've bought the voice recordings from me, again, I have no say at that point.
Due to the despite of success of a character, that over time, studios can always continue to redevelop. Like you said, once they have it, it's theirs. And as far as marketing it, do you feel like in some degree that they could just use it more of a tool rather than as far as the storytelling in today's video gaming market or even other voice acting projects?
I don't think it behooves them to use it any further because, I don't know, gamers wouldn't put up with that. You don't want to hear the same dialogue over and over from game to game. I don't think that's a thing that I would be concerned about.
Do you feel that today's companies that character isn't as diverse and is more just for specifically on marketing wise? Let's say they just want to use Duke Nukem only, and then here it is, but now it's more of a cartoon. It's not what we saw or this other character. It's just like, it's in the next Bang Bang 45 or whatever it is, and it bombs. It's only multiplayer only or whatever.
Well, that all depends on, the license holder, whoever has it. Right now, the Duke Nukem franchise is owned by Take-Two, who owns Grand Theft Auto. So it's no longer in the hands of Gearbox. Since the Embracer Group came in and bought all those companies up and then split them up again, Take-Two ended up with Duke Nukem. So they can do whatever they want. Quite frankly, I don't know that they even know that they own it yet because they're not doing anything with it. And I've reached out to them. I've been trying to reach out to them to get them to put, at the very least, Duke Nukem's K-Tent radio into GTA 6 when it comes out next spring. But I've had no luck reaching anybody there or getting any response, I should say.
And with companies and studios going further into that next-gen stage over and over and over, do you feel that this profession today that job security is not really longer actually available when an artist has or been having an established career.
Oh, well, any video game voice actor will tell you that's not how they're making a living. Like I said, there's a limited number of video games per year coming out. You can't really make a living doing it. I mean, if you're Troy Baker or Nolan North, maybe. They are very prolific and in almost everything. But we all do commercial work, and that's how we pay the bills. Yeah, I can't make a living on the number of video games I get. I never have been able to. A couple or three games a year is the most anybody really can expect, and that's not enough money to live on. So the way I make money really is by doing commercials. I do TV and radio station imaging, where I'm the voice of the channel, and a lot of commercials that you've heard over the years, like for Budweiser, Lipton Brisk Iced Tea, companies like that, PC Richardson, Sleep Outfitters. A lot of nationwide chains are pay me for voiceover, and that's how I make a living. Yeah, nobody's really making a living just doing video game voice work.
Do you feel that those voice actors that do have that ambition and think that, oh, I'm going to be attached to this and, the studio's going to pay well, do you feel that that's instantly going to be a downfall for them, despite how well talented they are, and even if they get a good chunk of change, that's only short-lived?
Yeah, I mean, game to game, you're only as good as your last project. I mean, any actor will tell you that.
Would you say that pretty much when it comes to the financial aspect of things, that even voice actors have to be selective on work, or do you feel like just take what you can, but invest it wisely as far as making a living yourself? And like you said, commercials
you take everything you can get, man. Every damn job you can get, every audition I can get. The percent of return on auditions is low. So for every 100 auditions I do, I might book 2 or 3 jobs. So the job of being a voice actor really is recording auditions day after day after day, hoping you land one. And it was a lot easier, I'll tell you, 20 years ago, when there were dozens of us voice actors doing all of these big jobs. Now there are tens of thousands of people who want to be voice actors, and it's diluting the talent pool significantly, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
What would you say the hardest area in the voice acting profession would be today? What's the hardest to actually get into? Right, and then what would you say is...
you mean for somebody who wants to get into the business?
For either in the business, or at least an area where they can be into, or in areas that they just simply will be very difficult to get into, whether it's establishment or even how much they get paid.
Well, the pay is whatever union scale is. Nobody's going to make huge money while somebody else doesn't make any. Today, getting into the industry is way harder than it was when I got into it. I had, of course, the advantage of having already been in radio broadcasting for 45 years before I got into just voice acting. But it's way harder to get an agent today. It's way expensive to get a demo reel made, which if you're a voice actor, you have to have. That's your calling card. It's how you demonstrate to anybody what you can do. But, the pay, that's often negotiated between your agent and the advertiser. And we rarely have any options at all as to what the pay is. You take what the job pays is what you do.
Do you feel that self-independence, or even a certain degree of independence, might be limited to that voice actor in this profession, even today's standards, as in compared to the past early 90s and 2000s and so forth?
No, most of us are independent. We're all independent workers. It's all 1099 work. We have agents to represent us, but we're all self-employed.
And when someone doesn't have any of those, would you say that's almost like a death sentence for a voice actor, but because you need to have this in order to get somewhere in the profession? But what's really a good line, a good path for them to really not just start out with, but somewhere where they can succeed at and then move on from there?
A lot of it is trial and error. And getting an agent is the almost impossible thing for actors today, unless you know somebody who has an agent that can drop your name to their agent and say, hey, I know this kid who's really good, and you might want to add him to your stable. Unless you know somebody in the business, getting your foot in the door is nearly impossible. The very first thing that has to happen is acting classes, practice recording, and then a demo, and then try to get representation. But today, like I said, getting an agent is almost impossible unless you have a friend who's already in with an agency. So what most voice actors are doing now is going to websites that provide them with auditions, websites such as voice123.com or voices.com. That's how most new voice actors are finding the auditions and getting the jobs and getting noticed. That's how it really works today.
And would you say that having to try to even self-market themselves, would you say that's incredibly hard today, or do you still think that everything needs, like you said, you got to have an agent, and it has, like you said, it's also hard to get, but having to be self-proclaimed on your own, would you say that's even more challenging than anything else of today's profession?
Yeah, no, you can't represent yourself. You'll get nowhere. You'll never get the auditions. You'll never be heard by the right people. So unless you're rubbing elbows in Hollywood with casting directors and producers, no, you've got to have representation, or you're never going to get the good auditions that pay union scale and can help you get enough income to make a living. Especially if you're a voice actor living where I do in Southern California, it's really expensive. The cost of living is very high here, so it's hard to make ends meet even if you're getting a lot of work. I don't want to discourage anybody from becoming a voice actor, but I do want your listeners to know it's way damn harder to do than it used to be. I'm lucky that I had my radio career first and a foot in the door to agencies. I have several agents who represent me around the country now, and that's how I get auditions for jobs. But it's very, very hard to do today. So unless you know you've got the chops and you know you'd be great at it, I recommend finding something that actually pays more money, like selling airtime on TV or radio. DJs don't make money anymore, but the account executives who are selling the airtime, they do.
And when it comes to like independent, whether it's a video game, whether it's any outside video game, or any some kind of voice acting project, does that become also harder, or would you say that's more limited to that voice actor having to be a part of something that's independent, that may not make as much money? Because everything is always a gamble, but could that also be a bigger gamble even right now?
Oh, not really. I do a lot of independent games, and I don't, obviously they're not SAG-AFTRA, they're not union scaled games. So I negotiate my prices when an independent comes to me, wants my voice for something. That's a great way for, I would say, new voice actors to go, to try to get in with an independent producer who's looking for fledgling talent they can get, inexpensively. That's actually a good way to go if you're a wannabe voice actor, you want to get a career going. Definitely seek out those independent developers, those indie developers, and get in their games. That was actually, you gave that advice, I think, just then with that question. So good job, man.
Being like part of SAG or other union companies, like, can you break down like certain challenges that once you get a part of that, the kind of membership that, as far as establishing yourself to that, like having to make yourself that you could also either make or break yourself, the potential challenges for that for someone who finally gets to that point?
Well, the biggest challenge of being a SAG-AFTRA union member is, for instance, like when during a strike. If you're a straight-ahead SAG-AFTRA member, you cannot do any union scale work during a strike. But that, again, depends on your level of, what do I want to call it, dedication to SAG-AFTRA. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean cheating. I am what's called financial core. In the industry, we call it FICOR. So I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, have been for many, many years, but as a FICOR member, which means I can't use their website for any kind of billing or anything, and I cannot vote on union issues. I'm not allowed to, and I have to find a way to be paid for union work, not dependent upon them, because I'm financial core. But on the upside, during a strike, I can keep working, and I don't have to do only union work. I can do union and non-union jobs because I'm FICOR in the SAG-AFTRA union. So there's the upside to that. That's one of the challenges. You asked about one of the challenges. That was one of them. I had to learn that early on to know if I wanted to keep working during a strike and not have it affect my work, Was I willing to give up voting rights in SAG-AFTRA? Was I willing to give up being able to use their website accessories? And I was, and it has worked out really well for me. So, tip my hat to you for that question. That was a good one.
As a voice actor, what was restricted to you in your past, and what would you consider that is a non-restrictive thing to voice actors today that was always restricted to them, but is more accessible to them because now technology has advanced and to a degree has been a little bit easier as far as showcasing and marketing and everything else?
Well, that's a good one too, because I'll give you an example. For me, before I became just a video game voice actor, and I'm not just that, I still do a lot of commercial work, but before I started doing, a lot of video games and such, as a broadcaster, back when I was getting started in it, there were no MP3s. That didn't exist back when I was a TV announcer. And I remember being so excited the first time I got a floppy disk with an MP3 on it that had audio, and I went, wow, that file is so tiny. I know that's going to change things. Boy, did it. Back when I started out, I had to go to my agent's office every morning before I went to my radio job to do auditions in their studios. And that's how the audition process used to work. Everybody represented by an agent, you had to go to your agent's office and record in their studio. And you had to wait around for an hour or two, for everybody else who's recording too, and for the session time to come up, and blah, 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 blah. It was a great big pain in the ass to audition back when. Well, the invention of MP3s and the internet bringing audio easily into our homes through our computers, simple recording studios that can be built at home, such as the one I'm talking to you through right now, made a huge difference for all of us in the industry. All auditions are done right here from our homes. We get them via email from our agents or from websites that some people use, find auditions and use for representation as well. And so it's easier to audition than it ever was before. It's harder to become a voice actor now, but once you are one, the process is much easier than it used to be.
Before we get out of here, is there any websites or anything that you care to promote, or anything else that you want to also add as far as advice or anything else like that?
Oh my goodness, absolutely yes, and thank you for it. Okay, first and foremost, I own a convention on a cruise ship, on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. We're going into our 6th year. It's called King Con Cruise. Sail with the King, baby. And next March, during spring break, we'll be cruising from Los Angeles to Cabo San Lucas on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. It's 5 nights at sea, and it's the most fun you can have on a cruise, I promise. Share your vacation with me, and I'll show you a good time. Also, I have a lot of information and I should say merch available, too, for fans of Duke Nukem and or Big the Cat. I have all kinds of hoodies, T-shirts, coffee mugs, phone cases, you name it, coffee mugs and beach towels and all kinds of stuff with both Duke Nukem original artwork and Big the Cat as well. They are adorable, and you can find them on my website, which is jsjpresents.com. So JSJ, as in John St. John, presents.com. And when you go there, you can find a way to contact me for any kind of work. I'm also an ordained minister, so I do weddings quite frequently. I did one a little earlier this year here in Southern California, and I have another one next June in Syracuse, New York. So if you're getting married and you want Duke Nukem or Big the Cat to do your ceremony, as crazy as that sounds, people pay me to do it. You can reach out to me on that website, jsjpresents.com, and get all the information on my cruise and how to book me for stuff and how to buy merch that I offer, flasks and shot glasses and all that stuff. So thank you for letting me get that plug out. I do appreciate it.
There you have it, everybody. That is voice actor John St. John.
Hail to the King, baby.